Welcome to the New Discovery Christian Podcast, where you'll find Bible messaging and sermons that will encourage, uplift, and challenge you to a godlier life. Join our community and become inspired to continue living a God-directed life.
Welcome again to the New Discovery Podcast here in Hernando with me, your host, Kyle, and Javan, my co-host. And we're coming back again with the Bible with the Bros, continuing on through Genesis right now. We also ask that if you're enjoying these podcasts, you're enjoying us on YouTube, Spotify, wherever it is, give us a like, give us a review, give us a comment, also what you think about this topic. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in and read through Genesis and just keep on going like we have been. So if you want to follow along with us, we're going to be in Genesis 6 now, chapter 6. So the title of this is Wickedness in the World. So chapter 6, verse 1. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, the daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal, their days be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward. When the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them, they were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become, and on the earth, and every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was on evil all the time.
The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Are we going to keep going?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to go over that segment right there. So There's a lot kind of honestly packed in there. Especially right off the bat, I guess there's a couple things that have to be kind of at least mentioned for context, like the things of who are the sons of God, what's up with them and having children with humans, and then what's going on with the Nephilim and their heroes of old. There's a lot of speculation in there.
What even is that? The
Nephilim? Yeah, there's a few different
were on the earth in those days.
Interpretations.
What does that even mean?
Like, so some people, either the sons of God are either the sons of Seth, which some people think they're the sons of Seth, and they ended up becoming great kings. So right. Some people think that is what's going on there. And that's why they're called sons of God, kind of like how we're called sons of God now. That's the relationship we're supposed to have with God, and that they failed that, and they had relationships with other people who were wicked, and they didn't follow the Lord the way they were supposed to. The other interpretation is that the sons of God are actually spiritual beings, angels, as we call them, and that they had relations with women, and they had children called the Nephilim, which are heroes of old, and some people speculate that's where Goliath and some people like that have come from. So, both interpretations have a point, but it's not clear in the text which it is necessarily, and it could honestly go either way. So that's just for food for thought for people to think about what's going on there. The main thing is that someone's having relations with these women, and it's not right, whoever it is, whether it's the sons of Seth or whether it's the actual angels. I lean on the side of it's the sons of Seth, just because it seems like it has something to do with people and their incorrect relationship with people who are wicked, kind of like the Canaanites. So I kind of figure that. So I guess that's one thing off the bat, but then, jumps down and talks about the wickedness of the world and everything that's going on there too. And every inclination, every thought they had was wicked. So
yeah, aren't they like sacrificing babies and stuff at this time? Like right before Noah had to build the boat?
That's a really good question. I know the Canaanites did that for sure. They sacrificed to a god named Molech. I'm reading through that right now where it talks about how King Ahab, who's married to Jezebel, he sacrificed his son over a wall. I mean, like, you just like imagine that, like his kid's like dangling over a wall, probably like what Michael Jackson was doing. Remember, he was holding the child like over a railing. You remember that? I just imagined something like that, and just like, I mean, it's brutal, but like just killing him right there over a wall, just like. And they just thought of that as like consecrating this wall, and then like, you know, it's like one of those things where you take a bottle before like a ship goes off. It's one of those things where they smash with the champagne, and if it smashes, it's good luck, and if it doesn't, it's like a curse. They kind of thought like that, but just like it's like a child being sacrificed. Oh, so probably some of that is going in here. It may be just understood that they're doing a lot of just really messed up stuff like that, along with what the Canaanites were doing as well. Because, I mean, he wipes them out the same way he wipes out the Canaanites. So you can assume that some stuff like that is kind of cooking in here right now. So
one thing. Have you ever seen the Noah movie?
Is it the one where it has what's his name from that plays Batman? Is it that Noah movie? Or is it older?
I think it's fairly recent. I think it's just called Noah.
I think.
But yeah, it's
or maybe that was the one that was Moses. Oh wait, that
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. That's I'm thinking of the Moses movie, the Exodus movie, which has the guy from Batman.
Oh, that's really old, isn't it?
No, it's
is it fairly recent?
Probably 3 years old, something like that. I remember going out to watch it.
This movie was weird. It had rock people in it, like.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, it was interesting, but the people on there were like pretty evil, and I think they ate kids. It was something weird.
That one there is based off of, I believe it's first and second Enoch. It's not based off of. Even the director said it's not based off of scripture.
Yeah.
He said, that's not what I'm doing. He said it's based off of Jewish tradition, which is what first and second Enoch is. And I'm reading through, I haven't read through all of it. I'm reading through first Enoch, but essentially it gets into that where some of the demons are fused in with earth, and they're half earth, half demonic. And that's what demons are. Demons are supposed to be like half part of this world and half not, and they're the Nephilim, which is what those rock things were, which you were seeing. They were the Nephilim.
Oh, so they were the Nephilim. This is their representation.
Yeah, that's Jewish tradition.
Okay.
Whether that's not scripture, you know what I mean? So it's not from scripture, but that's what Jewish tradition would say, is that's what the Nephilim are.
I never even knew about the Nephilim. Like I breezed past this whenever I read it on my own in like the past. Mm-hmm. I never saw this. This makes it like, I don't know, this is kind of cool. It's kind of like sons of God, so you kind of think that these are like a different set apart people. I don't know if they have powers, but like if they're like maybe angels, or I don't know.
Some people think they're like half angel. I mean, some of that interpretation's in there, so it either goes half angel / some people think that's how the angels fell, is actually right here.
Oh, okay.
And so that's how some of that is going on, and that they shouldn't have done that with human beings. And that's how the Nephilim come in, which are kind of like corrupted things. You know, they're not supposed to be there. It's not the way things are supposed to be. So that's also another interpretation in there.
You think they were killed off during the flood?
That's a good question.
'Cause it makes it seem like they were on the earth in those days, so I guess they're not here now, but they were there then.
Some people think Goliath are descended from the Nephilim, for instance, because he's huge. Like, what was he, like 7? He was 7 foot something. Like, that's freaking gigantic. That's another foot.
I think
taller
he was
than I am.
9 feet.
Was he 9?
I think. I don't know.
I mean, you could be right about that. I mean,
because 7 feet. Well, like, there's a lot of people 7 feet right now.
I would say there's some people that are 7 foot that you see sometimes.
Yeah, like in the NBA, everybody's like near 7.
Yeah, but if you went to a city or something, there's maybe like one person like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially back then, you would maybe see like one of those persons in your entire life. So,
how tall is Goliath?
Yeah,
9 foot 9 inches. We're looking at almost 10 feet.
Yeah, so we're talking like really huge. Like, what's going on with this dude?
Yeah, somebody told me that they found like a saddle on a mammoth or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently, the mammoths were beasts of burden, so they like carried stuff. So I don't know. What if like giants rode mammoths? That'd be crazy. They could be the Nephilim.
I have heard stuff like that before. There's actually a
Excavator.
I'm not gonna say it. There was an archaeological dig. I can't say the word I'm trying
Excavation?
to say. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I just can't say it right now. I guess I don't have enough coffee in me yet. But this archaeological dig, we'll say that.
Yeah.
In the United States, it happened, I think it was somewhere of the late 1800s, and they discovered bones that were like humongous sized bones. And it was like all over the news, like the New York Times and stuff like that. It wasn't like the Inquirer back then, which is like, I mean, they put a bunch of baloney on the Inquirer.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Every time you see it, it's like Scooby-Doo's real or something. It's like, man, get yourself out of here. No one buys you. And, but this was like over the New York Times, like the top news reports of like these huge bones. And the archaeological dudes went out there and they actually found them. And so everyone was trying to report on it after then. And then you don't hear, like, they actually found it. And then some other people went out there and they were trying to like store them somewhere. And then you don't hear anything about it, like anymore about that. Like, it just like, as soon as the government people went out there, that's what happened. You don't hear anything about those bones anymore. So I'm not sitting here saying that's conspiracy. I don't know. But I do know that they said they found these bones, like these archaeologists. I mean, they just weren't a bunch of dinglings out there just, digging around in the dirt or something. They were real dudes out there with museums and stuff like that. And then the government went out there and you don't hear anything. I think there's probably something going on there. And then there's another city in the book of Judges, actually. It talks about, I just remember this. There was a guy where it says he was related to the Nephilim or something along those lines in the book of Judges, and he was one of the kings, and it said his bed was like made of iron and it was close to like 9 feet long. And like speculating that his height is somehow connected to him being descended to the Nephilim. So again, I don't know, because like kind of what we're reading here is kind of like a legend. It's getting into a territory where the first Hebrews who read this, they would have known about this stuff, and they've been like, oh yeah, that stuff, the Nephilim, all of that. And we read this and we're like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah,
we don't really
say it so subtly too. They just like mention it, and then it's like, and then they keep going.
And that's another thing too that I always remind people on the podcast, I keep mentioning here, is that Scripture isn't trying to be a history book, and it's not trying to be a science book, because if it was trying to be a history book, it would give us a full download of what's going on here. But Scripture's kind of like, oh yeah, that stuff. Okay, let me get back to the message though, because that's not the priority. It jumps down and talks about the wickedness of the world and every inclination of the heart, and sets up Noah right after that. So it tells us that it's trying to just give us a little bit of context, but it's like, we're not here to be a history book though. It's kind of like the Book of Kings. It's like, okay, we're going to go into how this king didn't follow the Lord and he was wicked. And then after that, it's like, hey, if you want to know his achievements, you want to know what he did militarily, all that stuff, read the Annals of the Kings. Like, that's not what we're doing here. So it's kind of like this here. It's like, if you want to go read about that, go listen to, one of the storytellers that we have right now, and he'll tell you kind of about all that stuff, which, I mean, technically we don't have that today, but yeah, that's kind of what it's telling us right there, is like, here's a little backstory, but that's not what we're here for. So we can only speculate a little bit.
Yeah.
But the priority is really the wickedness of the human race, and how every inclination of the heart was only evil, and how God regretted making human beings. That's kind of like, whoa, it's like how bad things have went from creation to that state.
Yeah, I wonder how long it took.
That's a good question. We don't really know necessarily. I mean, we're looking at all these numbers over here, 905 years and 830 years, 962 years on the other page, and how long these people live, which we talked about how some of those those can be symbolic, or they could be literal. I mean, I don't know. But definitely, I would say a long period of time has probably passed by. I think, at least, you see different generations. At the minimum, I mean, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. around 6 or 7 generations have passed. So, I mean, that could almost, say they lived normal years. I mean, that's close to 700 years. So, some period has definitely passed since then right now, at least about that much time. And maybe a few more generations after that to Noah. So I think that's kind of interesting how you've gone from living in creation to every inclination of the heart is now on wickedness. And it makes me think about like our culture right now too. We're living in a culture where everything, America was at least founded on biblical principles. Now, whether I agreed with all those principles of the founders, we probably would disagree on a lot of things, but they did try to found this country. And someone would be like, well, I don't know about that. I'd be like, well, in the Supreme Court, there's a statue of Moses sitting in there. I mean, if you want to go into the whole separation church and state, why is that still there? Why does it say God we trust on the back of our coins and things like that? Our judicial law is based off of the 10 Commandments, and the founders even talk about that. So there is something going on there with all those principles. And I would say that our country has flourished for a long period of time and still has some blessings. We talked about blessings of, the fathers not too long ago. You talked about your dad, and, I think some of those blessings are passed down to the kids. I remember us talking about that. And I think we like as America, we've gotten that as well. But I see how that's kind of like, we're in a state of, let's remove God we trust off the coins. People have petitioned to get the statue of Moses out of the Supreme Court. And people have tried to change our law to where a lot of those principles of the 10 Commandments can be removed too. And guess what? We see in a lot of our culture a lot more violence. We see a lot more people want to become like anarchists. Truth is relative. You see a lot of confusion between roles, between genders, between roles in a relationship between a man and woman. Like, what are my roles? What are your roles? So now there's a lot of confusion, a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness. Even some people may not like it, but a lot of feminism is based off of a lot of anger towards men. And some of it, I feel like some of it's justified if there's misogynistic men in the past. I'm with you on that. That's messed up and that's wrong. And there are some people like that, but it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's kind of like the message has become all men are just like evil and messed up and twisted. And I think that's just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So now you have all of this going and fighting and rivalries. We don't agree. And that's not even getting into the whole political thing between, the two sides right now. It's just like your side is evil, my side is evil. And it's just like, we're just going to fight it to the death. It's like, wow. It's like, no one's united right now.
Yeah. Feminism was supposed to be founded like to be equal to men, not just to like roast men.
Right.
Like, that's what you see a lot on social media nowadays. Mm-hmm. Just like, if you think of a feminist, you think of somebody who hates men and thinks men are just evil and inferior and terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I feel like what I'm seeing is like our culture is kind of starting to get into this. It's like it's gone from kind of, I'm not saying it was a Garden of Eden, but I'm saying it was based off of some very solid principles, and we've been blessed, I think, as a country from that. But I kind of see that we're starting to go away from that and a lot of God's principles, and I think the effects are starting to show, like the cracks are starting to show right now in our country.
Yeah.
And it seems like we're kind of going towards the same type of the same route, I guess, if you would. And as we know, God doesn't put up with that forever, though. Like, I mean, he took the Canaanites out, brought the Israelites in, said, follow me. They chose not to follow him. And guess what? He sent the Babylonians and Assyrians in. And we're about to read the first flood, which that's going to be the first kind of apocalyptic event. And so I guess it makes me think about right now, will I be someone, because right here at the end, we're about to get into Noah, but Noah found favor in the eyes of God. And it just makes me think, am I going to be kind of like Noah, who finds favor in the eyes of God when everything goes to, hell in a handbasket at one point? And Noah's going to be saved because of that. Or it seems like if you're not a part of and aligned with that, you're just going to get caught up in the turmoil and all that chaos that happens to you. So I don't know. It just makes me think.
Yeah. I wonder if the coronavirus right now is kind of like the flood to God.
Yeah. I don't know. All I can tell people is I don't know for sure. But what I do know is that God did send certain plagues at times, as I'll put in my own words, like in Deuteronomy and Numbers, it's like a red flag. God is like, I'm going to do little things to wake you up of who do you actually depend on.
Yeah.
In the end, because it makes you helpless and you have to depend on something besides yourself, because you're like, I'm helpless right now. I need help from the outside, and it makes you turn to God naturally, or at least outside yourself and other people, and that could be other followers of God, which connects you to God as well. And I guess I wouldn't say God, I don't know for sure if God sent it. He certainly allowed it. I'll say that as much, at least.
Yeah.
And it could be that way. And good does come out of bad, even if you're a follower and you may not like hearing that. In some ways, I don't like it. But look at the story of Joseph, though. I mean, his family, I was talking with your dad the other day. His family, disowned him, and he's a slave for a while, and then he gets backstabbed, and then he's a prisoner, but through all that, he becomes the leader of Egypt. So out of that bad, and he even says at the end of Genesis, which we'll eventually get to, is, tells his brothers, you all meant this for bad and for evil. He said, but God took all of that, which he didn't intend, but he brought good out of it, out of his intentions. So I think the same thing could happen with the coronavirus. People's lives could be shook up, and hey, you're depending on yourself. You think you can get through all this, and I think God uses those to maybe bring good. So I think that's a good segue right there for us to maybe think about. That is, maybe some of these are birth pains of something God's trying to wake us up as a country. It's, hey, you're going in a wrong direction. You need to get back on the path. So yeah, was there anything else though? I think that's kind of
yeah, we brushed up on all the points that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's not a lot in there, but it's there's enough going in there to kind of at least think about.
Yeah.
With those two different things. So yeah, thank you for joining in with another Bible with the Bros with me and Javan. Zach's out right now. He's getting some other stuff cooking right now when it comes to job and stuff like that, and maybe he'll bring that up. So he's in an interesting state right now, so maybe we'll let him tell that story.
Sleeping.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be. But thank you again for joining in. If you enjoy this, give us a like. And if you think something different or you have another interpretations of this, comment that in the bottom, because we don't know everything, and everyone else would probably want to read the same, and we would too. So we'll see you on the next episode.